All right, imagine this. You walk into a bank, you've got a Stanford MBA, you've worked at Goldman Sachs, and you're a partner at one of the biggest VC firms in the world. And yet the bank treats you like a criminal, just drowning you in paperwork for months on end. Well, for one guy, that exact experience wasn't just a pain. It was the spark that ignited a revolution. This is the story of how that frustration launched a movement, and how a single purple card took on a banking empire and won.
So we're going to follow this incredible journey in 6 parts. We'll start with the hostile market that made it all possible, then get into the founder's idea, the purple revolution itself, how they survived a brutal counterattack, and finally how they went from an upstart to a global institution. To really get Nubank, you first have to understand the world it was born into. And let me tell you, Brazil back in 2012 was, to put it mildly, one of the worst places on earth to be a bank customer.
I mean, look at this. The power was so concentrated. Just 5 institutions controlled almost 80% of the entire banking system. This wasn't a competitive market. It was a club, an oligopoly with absolutely zero reason to treat its customers any better, because where else were they going to go?
And the cost to the people? It was insane. This number, this is the typical annual percentage rate on a credit card. Let that sink in for a second. Over 300%. It was a system basically designed to trap people in debt, burying them under fees for everything you can imagine.
So into this mess walks a guy named David Vélez. Now, he wasn't trying to be a revolutionary. He was a partner at Sequoia Capital, just down in Sao Paulo looking for companies to invest in. But a simple personal problem was about to change everything.
This right here, this was the light bulb moment. Vélez just tried to open a simple bank account and he was met with this demeaning, bureaucratic nightmare. But here's the thing. Where you or I would just see a really terrible afternoon, he saw a massive market failure. He saw an entire country just being completely ripped off.
Now, Vélez knew he couldn't do it alone, so he put together the perfect founding team. You had Cristina Junqueira, the industry insider, who knew exactly where the big banks were weakest, and Edward Weibel, the tech genius who could build their entire system from the ground up. With that team in place, they didn't just launch a product. No, they launched a full-on cultural movement. Their first move was unconventional. It was brilliant, and it was perfectly designed to fight a giant.
They so cleverly turned their weaknesses into strengths. The purple card, that became a visual declaration of war on the boring old banks. The wait list made getting a card feel exclusive and cool, and having zero ad budget, well, that forced them to make a product so good that their customers basically became their marketing team. It was all word of mouth, built on real brand love.
And you know what? It worked like a charm. Investors started lining up. A $2 million seed round in 2013 just exploded into a $14 million Series A, then a $30 million Series B the very next year. The smart money knew this wasn't a gimmick, it was the real deal.
But of course, the giants were starting to wake up. As Nubank got bigger, the old banking guard decided it was time to crush this little purple nuisance. And in 2016, they didn't try to compete on service. They tried to regulate Nubank right out of existence.
This was their weapon of choice. It looks like a boring rule change, but it was actually a kill shot. See, it meant Nubank would have to pay merchants for customer purchases in one day instead of almost a month. That would have required billions of dollars in cash that, as a startup, they just didn't have.
And you can just hear it in Vélez's own words. This was serious. It wasn't just a hurdle. It was an extinction-level event. The big banks were literally trying to change the law to put them out of business. But they underestimated one thing: the power of Nubank's customers. The public outcry was so huge that getting rid of the company became politically impossible. The rule never happened. So, having survived that attack, Nubank entered a whole new phase. It wasn't just some disruptive startup anymore. It was on its way to becoming a globally recognized financial powerhouse.
And that path was paved with some very, very serious money. In 2021, one of the world's most respected and, let's be honest, famously cautious investors made a massive $1 billion bet on the company.
Yep, from Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. That investment sent a message to the entire world. This wasn't some flashy tech bet anymore. This was the ultimate seal of approval from the most conservative corner of finance. It basically said, Nubank is here to stay.
And with that ultimate vote of confidence, well, the path to the public markets was wide open. The result? A massive IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. The little startup from a rented house in Sao Paulo was now a $50 billion institution, worth more than some of the very banks it was built to fight.
But the story doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. Today, Nubank isn't just defending its home turf, it's looking to the next frontier, planning a global conquest built on a foundation of artificial intelligence.
And they've got a very clear plan. This is their public 3-act strategy. Act 1, dominate Latin America. Check, done. Act 2, expand into new stuff like insurance and investments. That's happening right now. And Act 3 is just beginning, becoming a global AI-powered bank.
And this right here, this is their most powerful weapon. Because they have no physical branches and a modern tech system, their cost to serve a single customer is just 90 cents a month. Traditional banks, they're stuck with thousands of branches and ancient systems they can't even get close. It's not just an advantage, it's a structural chasm.
This table just lays it all out. I mean, just look at the Net Promoter Score. That's basically how much customers love you. Nubank is at a staggering 90+, while the old banks are in the low single digits. Their cost to get a new customer is a tiny fraction of the others. This isn't a fair fight anymore. It's a demolition.
And now they're bringing that demolition crew to the biggest market in the world. In January 2026, they did something many other global fintechs have failed to do. They got conditional approval for a U.S. bank charter. The Purple Revolution is officially coming to America.
Which, of course, brings us to the final question. The Nubank story exposed a lazy, entitled industry that was gouging its customers. So, what industry here in America looks just like that today? Who is completely ripe for their own Purple Revolution? I'll let you think about that one.